Hello everyone, looks like we are live. Gonna take a couple of seconds here and let some people hop on. I'll let you in on a little secret right up front. I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't done Facebook Live for quite a while, and they have, I think, made some updates. I was going to be doing this on my laptop. Now I'm doing it on my phone, but bear with me since I don't know what I'm doing. Give me a little grace. And we're going to give a couple minutes for a couple people to jump on. I see my brother Rick on. Good evening, Rick. Hope you're doing well. And Precious Delphina, you made it. Good job. Good job. You figured it out. That's awesome. We have some big and exciting news to make tonight, so I really appreciate you taking the time to join in with me so together we can celebrate what God is doing. There's some big things coming up. Hey, Rick. Thanks for your comments. I don't want to wait too long because I have lots to share and I don't want to keep everybody long tonight. And of course, as always, these live broadcasts are made available for replay a little later on. So we're just going to dive right into the news and the story behind it. So some of you know that I'm a worship leader and a musician and a singer-songwriter, and have been doing that for a long time because I've always had a great love of music. When I was, I don't know, about 8 years old maybe, somebody introduced me to Amy Grant. I had never heard that genre of music before, and something in my heart just changed forever the day I heard her when I was a child. And ever since then, I've wanted to be involved in music. Growing up, I had a lot of the wrong agendas and wrong motives for wanting to be involved, but I also understood the power of music and just how it can be so powerful and effective in reaching people and changing their hearts. And so for years in my journey, childhood through early college and those years, God took me on quite a journey that I had no idea how long that journey would last. Within that time, a lot of pruning, a lot of refining, lots of fires, lots of hurts, lots of pains, but all leading into making me who I am today and getting my heart very free from those original agendas and ideas that I had when I had my sights set on Nashville and wanted to do that whole gig. And God in His kindness really led me away from that. So that is all to say that we're really, 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 really excited. I'm going to share the news now because I just can't wait, and then I'll back up and tell you more of the story. But we have a release date for my very first album that is coming out, and it is coming out very soon on July 14th. And here is the album cover. It is called Songs from Jacob's Ladder Ascending. And it's actually one of a two-part series, Songs from Jacob's Ladder Descending, the second companion album, will be released on November 14th of this year. I can't even begin to tell you guys the process that this has been. It has been a 7-year journey, and I want to tell you a little bit about the story because I think it's important of what God's doing and actually what God is speaking over a lot of people's lives, maybe your life individually, things that you've been waiting on Him for a very long time. And you haven't understood the timetable, you haven't understood the processes. I want to give you a little bit of hope in that journey if that's where you're at tonight. This all started back in 2013. I have a dear friend who co-owns a recording studio in South Dakota in my hometown. He called me up in the spring of 2013 and he said, "Hey, I've been writing some songs and I can just hear your voice on them. They have to be sung by you. Are you coming home anytime soon for a visit? Maybe we could barter. You could sing on my songs, and whatever number of hours we spend on my stuff, I'll give you equal time in the studio, and you could just use it for whatever purpose you want, record some of your own songs." And I thought, well, that's fantastic because I write quite a bit, and I write so much and have so little time to practice that I just don't remember my own songs very well. So if I can have just even a demo recorded for my own purposes is super helpful. So in the fall of 2013, we made that work. I flew in and we were at the studio and we spent a few hours on his songs. And then he said, "Okay, you have equal time for your things." So I think we had a few hours, and we laid down 3 songs within that time. And I was just getting ready to leave. We were just getting ready to have a final hug for the night, and me walk out the door and say, "This has been fun." And God tapped me on the shoulder, and it was a pretty divine moment. And He said, "Carlene, those 3 songs that you just laid down are the beginning of your very first album. You're to do this here You're to do this now. And I'm choosing Scott, who is my friend and was my sound engineer. He said, I'm choosing him because he needs this. You need this, and it's time. And I was floored because God had spent so many years getting the agenda out of me as far as music and music ministry. And anything that I wanted that was for the wrong motives, or I was using it to try to help heal my insecurities and give me some significance as far as my talents go. And there's just so much that he's gotten out of my system for all of this that I was shocked. It was kind of my Isaac that I had to lay down on the altar, and I had no idea if I'd ever get it back. And I was so surprised when God gave me that instruction. And what's funny is, in the moment, in my mind, I was wrestling with God, and I said, that's great, but practically this could take 10 years to do, because I only have a week or two, excuse me, I only have a week or two of vacation off from work a year, and to fly here, because this could take several segments, many, many days, many, many hours to record, and have zero funds. And my reasoning kicked in, my logic kicked in, and it was counteracting the heart of God and what he was saying. So I kind of wrestled with God in the moment, but I thought, you know what? If God has given me this invitation and really this mandate, so what if it takes 10 years? I had no idea. I thought that's probably just an over-exaggeration in my mind. Well, it took 7. It didn't take 10, but it did take 7. And I'll give you just a little snippet of what that journey has been like. The first couple of years, we got all the songs recorded and done, and I took multiple trips home, just miraculous stories of God's provision. Like, I could be here all night telling you those. And also favor with work, to have the time off to go record all this. I mean, so many blessings of God. And about 2 years into this process, the music was done and finished recording. And I was thinking, hey, in the next year, year 3, we'll probably have this finalized, mixed, mastered, and out. And it's like the entire process just came up against a giant brick wall, where suddenly before there had been all this massive supernatural provision and acceleration, and things were going so fast and so quick. And all of a sudden it literally stopped. I mean, I wasn't even going 1 mile an hour. It was dead. It was at 0. And any time I would try to work further on this and take care of some of the practical steps that you have to do to get an album ready to release, and I had to set up a business, an official LLC, and just any time I tried to work on this, zero grace. There was no freedom. There was it was just striving. And I was like, God, I know you, and I know you don't operate in striving, so I'm just going to have to sit back and wait, and to the best of my ability, trust your timing. And I have to be honest, that was really hard, and I didn't do it very well a lot of the time. Tons of wrestling, really questioning God, wondering if he knew at all what he was doing. I thought I had much better plans and timetables in line. And somewhere in the next, what has been now the last 5 years, I've gone on a very intense emotional journey. The way I would describe it is, it was like I was all my life, or maybe especially during the season in these last 5 years, it's like I suddenly went into this dark, wet, drab, emotional cave. And it wasn't all dark all the time. I mean, there's moments that I would kind of come and walk to the mouth of the cave, and I would look out on the world, and I would feel the sun, and I guess the sun really is still there, and I would experience the light and the warmth. But I deluded myself in thinking that I was experiencing the sun fully, just because I could feel it coming on me as I was standing in front of it. But when the rest of you is still in a cave, not all of you is in the light of the sun. And so I lived in this cave, and God started doing some real deep dives with me as far as things that were still affecting me from my past, things that I needed freedom from, blind spots the size of buildings, lots of denial that I was in, and all these things that I started to realize I'm way more bound than I realize. Now, for all of this is a lifelong journey. All the things we go through in life just takes time and takes relationship with Jesus to get free from. But I just had no idea that it was going to take a 5-year period to untangle the knots that I was in, the walls of self-protection that I had around my heart. So many things, just so many things. And so somewhere in this last year, I think, honestly, now that I think about it, it actually started beautifully, symbolically, and miraculously on Easter Sunday of 2019, on a resurrection day. It's kind of like some fingers snapped and all of a sudden the gears started turning again. And so for this last little over a year, I've been working intensely, and all of a sudden, all the grace I was longing for to work on this and to get the many practical things done behind the scenes that needed to be done, all of a sudden there was a flow and there was no striving. It's been hard work. It's some of the toughest, steepest learning curves I've ever had, but God has been with me every step of the way. And here's what I've come to realize as you're waiting on God for something that you have felt all along as a calling for you to do, or an invitation He has for you. When you allow it to be God's time instead of yours, this is what you'll find out. This was the conclusion I came to. God is way more interested in my heart and in the condition of my heart than any ministry value He can ever get from me. God does not use us. I know that's a phrase we say often. I just want God to use me. I want to be used by the kingdom. And I understand what we're saying when we say that phrase, but we really need to come up with a better word, because God is all about relationships and He's all about people. Just like when He told me in 2013, you're to record this here at this studio and I'm choosing Scott. God told me in that moment, Carlene, this from here on out is all going to be about the relationships. God cares so much about people, and He cares way more about the relationship things that go on behind the scenes than if I were in the biggest arena with thousands of people in front of me. That is a moment that we can share together in those corporate settings. But I think most important things that happen in our lives happen through the context of family, community, and relationship. And God is so relational. He doesn't do anything outside of it. So I just want to first of all encourage you, if you are waiting on God for something, if there's a promise He's given you or a vision He's given you or something you know you want to partner with Him in, but it just hasn't come to pass, do not despise the days of waiting. It feels like nothing is happening when we're waiting, but I can guarantee you preparation is happening for what's to come, and that's what I've discovered to be true in my journey. So once again, all of that to say, the exciting day is here. For those that may be just joining us the last few minutes, Songs from Jacob's Ladder Ascending, first album, is coming out on July 14th. It will be available on my website, and I'll give you all that information in a little bit. And then the companion album, Songs from Jacob's Ladder Descending, will be available on November 14th. Now, I wanted to make sure I said several things, so let me look at my notes here real quick so I don't miss anything. Many of you I know have been loving me, praying me through this journey. You might not have known what it was all about, but I know you care. I know you might be interested in support. And so let me tell you the ways that you can support this, because forgot to mention this is super key. This is not just going to be a CD release. This is going to be the launch of my official ministry, and it's called Do It Again Ministries. And so the goal is I want to just seek the Father's heart and let Him tell me where He's inviting me to go, because I'm not a performer. I'm not an entertainer. I am a worshiper, and I'm invested in God and people and having all of those things connect. And so I want to do this very differently. I'm not in this to do gigs. I'm in this to do assignments of the living God and to be wherever He would send me, because He has purposes and plans and flawless timing for everything He does. He does all things well. So my ministry is called Do It Again Ministries, and you can go to the website if you would like. It is DoItAgainMinistries.com, and you can read up a little bit more on some things. And then feel free to subscribe to the email list there, because I will send out ministry news and updates. I'll update a calendar there of where I'm going to be doing performances. I'm eventually going to be doing a podcast, launching a podcast. There will be blogs that we'll be posting. I just want to use any avenue possible where Jesus would possibly invite me to partner with Him. People need encouragement so much. Our world is dark and heavy and burdened and chaotic, but Jesus has never been that way, nor will He ever be. in his kingdom, there is light and freedom and hope and peace at all times. It does not matter what's going on externally. That's who our king is. That's who our majestic king is. And so my desire is to start traveling, and again, where God would lead and open doors. I'm determined I'm not going to lean against doors to try to force them open. I want this to be a ministry free from manipulation and control tactics. I think when we do that, we start to go into an atmosphere of witchcraft, and that can be very dangerous. And it's so much of what God has just been spending the last several years getting me free from. So for me to implore those avenues would be me going backwards and me going back into bondage. And he has brought so much freedom that I now want to live a new way in a new normal, and carry about my ministry matters in that way. So if you are curious of ways you can support, obviously when the CDs come out, would love to have you stop by the website, DoItAgainMinistries.com, and purchase those. The first one coming out on July 14th. And it will be available on digital streaming and platforms. They're a little backed up right now with submissions because of COVID. A ton of musicians are putting out a ton of new stuff, so I'm not quite sure if those will be available on July 14th, or it might be a few weeks down the road. But the best support you can give any artist anyway is by purchasing the full album, if at all possible, on their website. That way the most dollars go back to them to support them. And then there are three other key things that I would ask you to do. The first is prayer. I was just recently watching a Facebook Live with a gentleman in Australia. I've never even heard of him before, Matt Beckenheim, and he said a phrase that I just loved. He said, "We leak what we carry," and purity is incredibly important to me. Being in things where God is moving and orchestrating, not us straining and striving and trying to make things be a certain way or look a certain way, or even to make events happen just for the sake of having events. And I want to be a person who walks in purity and integrity in all of this ministry life that God is calling me to. It's so important for me to have a heart that is free, because you can only give away what you have. So from here on out, as often as the Lord leads you, I would greatly appreciate your prayers. There's a lot to do. There's a lot for me to still learn on the legitimate business side of these things that I'm going to be endeavoring to do. And I just want the Father's heart. I want his invitations. I want the events that he has aligned. Again, I'm not doing this just to do gigs. I'm going to do assignments. And so if you'd be praying for me for wisdom and discernment to know those things, to know the heart of the Father, that would mean the world to me. The other thing is, most of you, if you know anything about my personal life, I do have a day job. I have been working at a network of Christian radio stations as the associate network manager. It's called Your Network of Praise in Northwest Montana, and I've been here for about 13 years and loved this job, and so thankful for its provision. I'm incredibly blessed to have a boss who has seen this calling on my life since I started here, and has told me, "You're the only employee that I ever hired that I can't wait to fire someday, because you're not supposed to grow old and die in this job. You're supposed to be out there ministering encouragement to people." And so I will begin, we don't know how this is going to look yet, but I will begin to slowly start to phase out of my day job so that I'm free to have more hours to travel, to do the kingdom assignments that God sets up for me. And so the phrase that I'm using that I've heard some other people coin, just makes sense, is called a musicianary. It's a combination of a musician and a missionary. And so just like a missionary would, I will be asking people to pray about supporting me. This is another thing that I do not want to pound this drum very much, because I just believe God's got it covered. And I believe he will lead people to stand with me, to be a family of supporters that together, because of financial provision and support that's coming in, that it will literally be able to allow me to make these travels and make these assignments and literally go and plant a flag in the land of wherever God would send me, wherever I can minister to people. So if you are at all interested in that, feel free to reach out to me through my website. There's a contact us form, and we could just dialogue about what that would look like. But if my living expenses are met, that actually frees me tremendously from needing to have a job that's tied to a regular paycheck, so that I can just be 100% all in to the things that God is calling me to do. So that's one way that you could support. The other way is just as important to me. In fact, it's really important to me. And it's a concept that I've been dreaming about, that I feel like is a dream that the Father put in my heart. And then he actually titled it for me, because I was wondering, what do we call this so people can kind of have an understanding. So we're calling it the Love Sent Me campaign. And basically what it is I've heard only a couple stories in my life of somebody who's, a big name speaker now, but in their early days, the church would call them up, ask them, hey, would you be willing to come speak for our event? And they would be shocked when they would ask the next question, well, how much is it going to cost to have you come in and minister to our body here? And the person would say, absolutely nothing. I don't charge anything. I come to give. I come to pour out. And I've heard the stories of the people on the other end of the phone who are in shock, because you very rarely get something for nothing. And especially when you want somebody to come in to bring timely, seasoned, refreshing to your group or to your event, and just, again, pour into people messages of his love and his hope and his freedom. It's very rare that somebody is free enough where they can't charge. And again, I don't want to use people. The second I have to charge somebody to bring me in, it is all of a sudden gone from a friendship to a business relationship, because that's just how it goes, because I perform a service for you and you sign a check at the end of the event and give that to me. I just don't think the kingdom is supposed to be that way. And I think God has more than enough to take care of this. So if you are interested in pouring specifically into the Love Sent Me campaign, and that would be funds that I would have set aside so that at the ready, if somebody calls me tomorrow and says, we'd really like to have you come in and do a worship concert, we'd like to have you come in and do a speaking engagement, I can say, no worries, my needs are set and taken care of. And it would be my joy and my privilege to come and be with you and to hang out with you and to see what Jesus would say, to see what he would do, to see what he would sing over our lives. That is my burning heart's desire, is that this would not just be my ministry, it would be our ministry, because you come with me and you send me and you make it possible. And so I just keep having these visions of, somebody coming up to me at the end of an event and saying, how is it possible that you even came here? And I'll say, well, the short answer is that love sent me. There's a group of people in Montana, or a group of people from wherever, that loved you so much that they took care of my needs, so that all you had to focus on was receiving. And you didn't have to be taxed by budget or concerns, or we didn't, again, have to make this a business transaction. We could let it be kingdom relationship and kingdom alignment and the things that he's doing. So that's called the Love Sent Me campaign. Again, if you're interested in information on that, or would like to dialogue about it, I'd love to share a heart-to-heart and see what the Father would say. But that's available on our website. Again, DoItAgainMinistries.com. Just about wrapped up. I want to again remind you that if God has called you to something, and if there is something on your heart that he put there that's part of your original design, it is part of him as the grand architect putting certain things in you that are meant to be a place where people's needs get met and people get ministered to, where they are hurting so much, and something in you is the Jesus in you that ministers to their need. And if it hasn't come to pass yet, please do not lose heart. I was reading in Exodus 14 the other day and was just struck by this. I want to share this and one other quote, and then we'll close out for our time tonight. But Exodus 14:21 through 22, this is where the Red Sea parts for Moses and the Israelites. But listen to this. It says, then Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and all that night the Lord drove the sea back with a strong east wind and turned it into dry land. The waters were divided, and the Israelites went through the sea on dry ground with a wall of water on their right and on their left. I don't know if I've ever paid attention to that phrase in there that says, all that night the Lord drove the sea back. if God has shared something with you, if he's put that on your heart to do, but it hasn't come to pass, this has been a 7-year journey for me. I can tell you it's been one of the longest nights of my life. It's been painful. It's been treacherous. It's been a wilderness season. But something happened in the last year, especially the last 6 months. And it's like I'm finally now experiencing where it talks about in the Song of Solomon, I'm coming out of the wilderness leaning on my beloved. And now that I have that, now that I've overcome this long time and this journey and partnered with Jesus for my freedom and my healing, I now have that to help others through that. What you overcome, you have authority in. And so I'm itching to go where he sends. But I want to encourage you, if you're in a long night season, hang on. It is worth it. It is worth it. Every trial has a built-in time limit, and this will not last forever, even though while it's happening, it feels like it's going to last forever. But Jesus has so much more for you, and you actually need what this season of waiting is providing. You would not want to go into your future and into your calling without it. Trust me, there is a grounding and a silencing that happens, a settling of the soul, and the spirit gets free from woundedness, and all that's left is brokenness, and brokenness is the holy parts of our story that God wants to stay there, because that's the cracks that the light shines through in. Those are the scars from which we speak from, that we've gained authority in, and that God tells us, tell your story, that the testimony, the power of the testimony will set captives free. So if you are in a long night, just remember, miracles take time. I think the reason we don't see a lot of instantaneous miracles is because miracles don't mature us. There are so many beautiful treasures and tools that we get when we go through the processing that has to happen, the shaking, the shifting to make a miracle be complete. And so if you are waiting on the Lord for your miracle, just know that it takes time, but it's not that he's standing idle. Please hear that. I really feel like somebody needs to hear that. Your God is not standing by idle, just crossing his arms across his chest and just kind of waiting for no reason. He is waiting on purpose, and he is doing something in your heart right now, and be encouraged in that. So let's see, last thing. As I begin this ministry, first of all, I just want to say, I don't even want to call it ministry, because our lives are ministry. We minister unto our King. We minister unto Jesus as we live with him day in and day out, and make decisions and let all of our yeses be consecrated to him, not for our agenda, not for our platform building, not for us to have a kingdom, but to make known the gospel of Jesus Christ and the kingdom and the power of the word and all that he stands for. So as you would, if you would kindly, please be covering me in prayer. I want to read to you a quote from artist Jeremy Riddle. If you don't know him, a powerful worship leader and singer-songwriter. And so many times I like his posts on Facebook, because they just say in a much more profound way everything that my heart would want to say if I were smart enough to come up with these words. And so I want to read to you a post that he wrote. This was back in April. And this would be the desire of my heart. So if you would join me in praying this with me and for me, I would greatly appreciate it, because I do think this is part of the new paradigm that God's bringing, because this whole time of COVID has been a massive reset. God is doing new things, and we need to be prepared for the new things that are coming, and that he is doing, as things are not going to look like they used to. It is going to be a new normal. So this is what Jeremy Riddle says. He says, a chance to create a new model that, he's talking about an album that he just put out. And so I'm likening this to the albums that I'm releasing this year. So Jeremy Riddle says, a chance to create a new model that isn't patterned after the secular music industry and all its subsequent brokenness. And this I will happily do unto success or failure, simply because I know it's right. And I know it pleases him. Romans 12:2 is clear. Do not conform to the pattern of this world. Jeremy says, I firmly believe the greater things we long to see in worship, the creative works that carry greater anointing, presence, and power, and are simply waiting on superior wineskins. Wineskins that, listen to this is what grabs me, wineskins that cherish his presence over prophets. Yes, Jesus. His glory over our own, and obedience to him above all. If the end result of something is intended to be worship, then all of its processes must be birthed, saturated, and sustained in worship. Every detail matters. Every relationship matters. Every record contract matters. Every songwriter split matters. Every heart, every attitude, every motive matters. Honor matters. Business models matter. Generosity matters. Love matters. Without it, we are just making noise. I can't even begin to tell you how much that grabs me. When God first called me to do these albums, I argued with him because I said, God, there is so much good music out there already. There's so many voices. There's so much noise. And I really value serene peace and atmospheres of stillness and quietness where all of the noise in our day and in our lives can be stilled by the sovereignty of God. I said, God, I don't want to do this just to do it. I have to know that you're calling me to this because I don't want to be just another voice out there. The world doesn't need that. I do not want to be about making noise. However, I do want to make a sound. I believe there is a sound that God is releasing in the earth, and that sound most of the time comes through us, the sons and the daughters of the living God. All creation is groaning and waiting, just waiting for the day when we will realize who we are, and we will realize what we have in Jesus, and we will stand up and let the world know of his love. But it has to be unencumbered. It has to be free from all these things that we've made ministry. I understand that there's financial business things that have to be taken care of, but as much as possible, my plan is to not have a plan, because that goes back into my past where I had to, out of self-protectiveness and the needs to know what was going to happen so I wouldn't get hurt, I would need to have every single little thing planned out. Now I'm going to do this with details, and I'm going to do this with excellence because I believe that honors Jesus. But I don't want to do it with my plan. I have turned in my jersey and I have fired myself from that position. There's only one person that's good at being God, and that's God himself. So thank you again so much. I feel so loved seeing that several of you are on and watching and commenting, and I will go back and answer those comments. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. Once again, the summary here, the big news announcement, my ministry launch and my first CD launch happening July 14th in just a few days. Please be praying for me between now and then. There's a lot to do that I'm scrambling to figure out how I'm going to get done. But DoItAgainMinistries.com is the name of the Do It Again Ministries is the name of the ministry. DoItAgainMinistries.com is the website you can go to for more details. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram for both my artist page, also a Do It Again Ministries page. Most of the time I'll be posting in my artist pages for Carlene Prince, artist Carlene Prince. And on Instagram it is at @artist_Carlene Prince. So you can find me on those places as well. If you have any questions or even encouragement, I would gladly take it because we need to do this together. We are a family. I'm not going into this myself. Many of you who have prayed for me for this for a long time just know it worked. Jesus was listening, and in his kindness and in his fullness, we embrace a brave new day. And thank you for going with me. I just pray God's blessings over you, his encouragement that he would just literally weave it into your spirit. And I speak life and blessing and peace and the majesty, sovereignty, and supremacy of our King over you this evening. Thank you again for your support. Thanks for joining me tonight. And thanks for just starting some good gossip and sharing the good news. I greatly appreciate that. Love you all and have a good evening. God bless.